before I begin, our hearts go out to Parkland, Florida.
Yes, yes.
Amen. And yet another, and pray for us because we're going right near Parkland, Florida. Amen. It's a suburb of Orlando, I believe. And we're going down there, but as somebody who works in a school, the Lord is showing me how the attacks are on the schools and all this kind of stuff. So certainly, to everyone who's been affected by any of those school shootings, not just in Florida, but wheresoever, we're praying for them right now, amen. And we join with the voices of all those people who are calling for an end to the violence, right? And some control on the guns. Like the little girl said on TV, he couldn't have hurt all the people if he'd had a knife.
That's right.
Right? 17 people ain't gonna let you stab them.
That's right.
Amen. So we got to do something about these guns and the issues. I'm not trying to take the Second Amendment away, but I'm saying we have to do something, amen, to control, because I turn on the TV and right here in Maryland, in District 11, they're having an election, and at one of the rallies, the candidate was giving away guns as a prize.
That's right.
I said, my God, we have to do something. We have to do something. We as the church, we as the people of God can't sit by silently and let the devil just take over the schoolhouse. Let the devil take over the state house. Amen. We can't sit by. I know it's got to be a separation of church and state over there, but over here there is no separation. Hallelujah. So we have to speak up, amen, against those things. So I'm gonna leave that there. Maybe at Bible study another time we're gonna come back to that and the church's responsibility. Amen. But put your Bibles over your heads and repeat after me. This is my Bible. I am what it says that I am.
I am what it says that I am.
I have what it says that I have.
I have what it says that I have.
I can do what it says I can do.
I can do what it says I can do.
My heart is open.
My heart is open.
My mind is receptive.
My mind is receptive.
Today I will be taught the Word of God.
Today I will be taught the Word of God.
I will never be the same.
I will never be the same.
This is my Bible.
This is my Bible.
There are many like it,
There are many like it,
but this one is mine.
this one is mine.
In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
Amen. If you have your Bible, stand to your feet and open it up to the Gospel of Mark, the 4th chapter. In the Gospel of Mark, and we're just going to start reading. I'm going to lift 2 verses to consider, verse 37 and 38. Just to put it in the middle of our contextual scripture. Chapter 4, Gospel of Mark, chapter 4. Starting to read at verse 37. And it reads in the King James, "And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish?" The word of the Lord is blessed. Y'all sit down right there. Carest thou not that we perish? Amen. We honor the Lord, as I said. For last week you had opportunity to go to the John F. Kennedy Performing Arts Center. Amen. And I'm old enough to remember when there wasn't a lot of brown people even at the Performing Arts Center. Even around there, right by the Watergate and all that. But God has blessed us to have 3 members of the Children of the Gospel Choir who performed at the Kennedy Center on last Sunday. If y'all stand so we can recognize y'all. Praise the Lord for our Children of the Gospel. Amen. Even Brother Xavier did a solo. Praise the Lord. Amen. We honor you guys. We're very, very proud of you all. And God, let him keep using each one of you here. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. So we were there and we were way up high. We were in the up high seats. Praise the Lord. And one of the things when you sit up high, it's very important, y'all, when you go see your children that they know you're there. Right? And so when you sit up high, you kind of got to make a lot of noise. Right? Because they say they grown and they say they don't need you. But you see when they find out where you are, their shoulders kind of drop. Okay. You know when they're way up there. I could see Momo's face when he recognized that we were sitting. We were up there, but he saw us. Okay, calm down. So it was a blessing. And where we were sitting, some of y'all was with us. Where we were sitting, the Lord put in my spirit. We were sitting there and there was a little girl behind me. And I love little girls. I love baby girls. I always wanted one. Praise the Lord. As you see, my God babies are my home. Mother said, praise the Lord. Continue to be that to be your home. But there was a sweet little girl behind us. She couldn't have been more than 2 years old. And she was sitting there with her, obviously her family members, grandma, and everybody was there. And so, you know, regardless of how exciting an event might be to you, it's not exciting to a 2-year-old. Right? So this little girl, before the performance, she's climbing, she's treating her family like a jungle gym. She's climbing from grandma to mom to auntie and back and forth and back and forth. Right? I was sitting by daddy, yes, I remember. She'd climb over to daddy. So now the performance is about to start. Right? So she had to calm her down. But she's been riled up for about 10 minutes. So calming her down is going to be funny. I always like that because it's not my child. Right? You know how you look and see somebody with little kids, you be like, praise God. You hear that? Praise the Lord. You'll get it, right? You'll get through it. Praise the Lord. Anyway, so they trying to calm her down, and you can see the mom and dad, I forget her name, but they say, baby, please be quiet. The performance is about to start. She climbed over to dad. Now, baby, if you keep making this noise, nobody's gonna be able to hear. She's climbing and climbing, right? And I'm listening, I'm here hustling. Then they got to grandma. Baby girl climbed until she got to grandma. And grandma said something and began to ring in my spirit from the moment she said it a week ago. She sat on the little girl sat on her lap and she said, now sit still. My God, my God. I said, okay. And the Lord began to bring that thing in my spirit. Y'all know what set still means. Well, I don't know if we still say that to the children. Set still didn't just mean stop moving. Set still meant get yourself together. Get your whole situation. Whatever it is you need to have in your head, get it. Whatever you need, right? Not set still. So she said, okay, set still. And believe it or not, the little girl sat still. Amen, amen. Now, when we most often think of still, some of you all are old enough to remember that the Satins had a song called In the Still of the Night. 1956, praise it prior to me. And now still means, in that context, it's adjective. It means not moving or making a sound. But when the Bible talks about still, it never uses it as an adjective, it uses it as an adverb. And so God began to talk to me about the will of still. What is the will of sitting still? Because when you're 2 years old, it's really, really hard to sit still. When you're 22 years old, it's really, really hard to sit still. When you're 52 years old, it's really, really hard to sit still. Y'all follow me? And so it takes some will to sit still. And so when the Bible uses that word still, they're talking about the adverb still, which means up to and including the present or the time mentioned, even now or then as formerly. See, when the grandmother said, in that way, child sat still, she meant stop moving, right? Get yourself together. But if you go back in Genesis 2 and 7, because we're talking about the Bible, not grandma. Genesis 2 and 7 said, and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So I want you in your mind to picture, God has fashioned of the clay, he has fashioned a man. And he breathed into him the breath of life. So before there was anything else, while he was yet alive, he was still. Motionless and silent with God's breath in him, but he was sitting still. So when God tells us to sit still, he means go back to that position of being motionless and silent, but filled with the Spirit of God. Amen. Now what makes us, when you look at the destruction of stillness, That word is anextheos in the Greek, the destruction of stillness. Anextheos, and the direct derivation in English is anxiety.
Wow.
Anxiety is the opposite of stillness. And so God wants to look at this morning, what is the will of still? The will that fights against anxiety. Because anxiety is just as present in the church as it is outside of the church. We have saints taking pills. We have saints drinking drinks.
Yeah.
Doing all kinds of things, trying to avoid these anxious feelings. And I looked up three major reasons of anxiety. And believe it or not, one of them is lack of sleep.
Amen.
I never thought of that. Lack of sleep will make you anxious. The average American only sleeps 4.5 hours a night. 4.5 hours a night. Now, they recommend 7 to 9 hours. I can't wait. We're going down to Florida very soon, and I can't wait to get down there. And I always say, when I get down there, I'm going to take me a nap. That's how you know you're getting older. I can't wait to go by the pool so I can get me. Don't bother me. Just I'm going to go down to Jamaica and sleep. Now, and why y'all understand, it's something wrong if you can't sleep at your house.
That's right.
If I have to go 1,000 miles away to get a comfortable sleep, what am I anxious about?
Yeah.
Another of the factors that breaks our stillness is fatigue. Now, fatigue is not just being tired. Fatigue is being worn out from repetition.
My God.
What we would call burnt out.
Yes.
A lot of us are anxious and we suffer from anxiety because we got burnt out. And we're not getting sufficient rest. The last one would be restlessness. The desire to move, which is actually a displeasure with where you currently are. All three of these factors lead us back to the text. Turn back to Mark, the 4th chapter. 4th chapter. And we'll go back up at verse 36. Now what we had here, by now Jesus is becoming a rock star.
Yeah.
People are following Jesus because they want to see the miracles. Right? People are following him because they want to see if he's going to open blinded eyes or going to multiply fish and loaves of bread. They want to see what trick he's going to do next. They call themselves disciples, but in fact they're merely spectators. So I'm asking you today, are you a disciple or a spectator? Did you come to see the next trick?
Jesus.
Or are you following Jesus? Amen. And so the people got so many that Jesus had to get in a boat. Let the people gather on the shore, and he got in a boat and he taught from the boat to the multitudes. He would do that a couple times. And the Bible says when he finished, I got to go back. It's interesting to note that in chapter 4, while he's there, what do you think he's talking about? What do you think the first thing, take a guess, the first thing Jesus talks about when he's in that boat and all the people are listening? He talks about giving. He talks about planting seed. How some seed fell on the good ground and the stony ground, and then the thistle. Amen. He begins to draw the connection between what we give and how we live. Here at Greater Bethesda, that connection is also drawn. Amen. In our big campaign, in our giving, all of those things are connected to the way that we live. We want to be better in giving. We want to be better in living. We want to be better in serving. Better in all of these aspects. And Jesus begins to touch on these things. Now, so verse 36 said it this way. And when he had sent away the multitude, they took him, even as he was, in the ship. And there were also with him other little ships. So now he's done, and he stayed in the boat, and they sailed away. They started sailing back out into Lake Gennesaret, or the Sea of Galilee. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship so that it was now full. Right after he was serving God, things got their worst. Has anybody ever been there?
Yes.
Right after you serve God, you get the worst news you ever had in your life. Something you were not expecting. The thing about storms at sea is that you can't see them coming.
That's right.
The sea can be calm, and then hours later you're in the middle of a storm that your boat is full. Looked like I didn't get a chance to prepare or nothing. Boom, my boat got full just that fast.
My God.
Heard a preacher yesterday talk about what the course of action got to be. I meant to praise God for evangelist Rick Taylor. Amen. Got a chance to go with Brother Rick yesterday. He blessed the people. Amen. I was blessed to be with him.
Amen.
Amen. Come on, put your hands together. Talk about the course of action. Amen. Amen. And so this storm comes up. Jesus is asleep in the boat on a pillow in the stern of the ship. They come to him in verse 37, or 38. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow, and they awake him. And they say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? They come to Jesus. Now I told you, that's how you know you're a spectator.
Yes.
And not a follower. Looking back now in 2018, we can sit here in Clinton, Maryland, and say that that was crazy. How in the world can you come to Jesus and ask him, does he care? Does he care?
Right.
Well, after all he's done for you, does he care? That's a rude question. They ought to be ashamed of themselves for asking themselves this question, asking the Lord this question. How many of us do the same thing? When the storm comes up and it's big enough, do you question whether Jesus cares for you? See, they made the mistake that many followers and many believers make, and that is we equate Jesus' love with our comfort.
My God. Oh, my God. Yes.
Ain't that immature? Ain't that what babies and children do?
Yes.
They equate your love with comfort. They don't know that it's just as much love when I correct you as when I give you things.
Yes.
My no is just as much love as my yes. So Jesus was in the boat with them. As long as Jesus is with me,
Oh, yes.
I'm going to be all right.
That's right.
It's when I look around and can't find Jesus. That's when I'm worried about the storm. But because the storm was so great, because their circumstances were full, they began to question. They run to Jesus and basically ask him, why are you not doing anything for me?
Oh, my God.
I don't understand. Can't you see I'm uncomfortable? Can't you see I'm scared? Can't you see my situation is more than I can handle? Why don't you do something? Do you still care about me? Huh? And understand now, Jesus, and I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it. God is not moved by your tears. He's not moved by your talent. He's moved by your faith.
That's right.
Right? So if you don't have any faith, you can have all the other things, and you're not going to move God. A lot of us try to manipulate God like we manipulate each other. We can cry. We can cry and do it and pout and whatever, and we'll get our way from certain people. And we try to do those same things with the Lord, but he's not a man. He don't fall for all them tricks. Your lack of preparation does not constitute an emergency to God.
That's right.
Right? And so Jesus was asleep because I'm tired. That's why I'm asleep. Don't you care? Now, Jesus should have got up and been like, really? Really? But it doesn't. It says in verse 39, he arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, peace be still. Now, I need you to understand, he does two things, Deshaun. First, to the wind, to the creator of the problem.
Yes.
He rebukes it. In other words, he criticizes the behavior of the thing that was making a problem.
Oh, my God.
Right? Stop moving. Who are they? Who are you? In other words, he said, sit still. He's going back to way back in Genesis 1 and 2 when he said, darkness moved upon the face of the deep, right? When he first created the sea, it was still. And I told you, going back to the way things were at creation, that's what it means. And so when he said, get back where I told you to get.
Oh my God.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah,
Get back down there where I told you to set. Right? Set still.
Yes.
Get yourself together. Don't just stop moving. Get your whole situation together.
Yes.
Jesus was like grandma. I told the wind to set still.
That's right.
And then he looks at the sea, the atmosphere, and he says, peace, be still. So he rebukes the wind, the cause of the problem, and then he talks to the atmosphere.
Oh my God. Yes, God.
Has God ever had to do that in your life? Has he had to talk to that issue? You wondered why Ray left you alone, because God spoke to him and rebuked him.
My God.
And then he set a different atmosphere.
Thank you, Lord.
Huh? All right. And so he arose, verse 39 says, he arose and rebuked the wind. Now I need you also to understand that in verse 40 is a critical piece. He said unto them, because now the wind is calm, now they want to listen to Jesus. Right? And you would expect him to give an explanation as to what is going on, and he does. He says, why are ye so fearful? How is it ye have no faith?
Yes.
Wait a minute, Jesus. What are you talking about faith for? We in the middle of this boat. Why are you so scared? Because Jesus is once again showing that fear and faith cannot live together.
That's right.
If I'm going to pray, why worry? If I'm going to worry, why pray?
Amen.
And so he's saying, in the midst of this situation, all of you guys, you're worried about the circumstance. I can speak to a circumstance.
Oh yes. Amen.
The question is not, do you believe in the storm? It's, do you believe in me?
Oh yes.
Huh? Now, you've been listening to me preach all day. Who you thought it was supposed to be, like Biggie say? Who do you think it was supposed to be? I've been telling you who I am all day, and I got in the storm. As soon as you get in the storm, you forget.
My God.
Oh, ye of little faith. Huh? So he says, why is it, my God, why did you get scared? Because, got to remember now, we are not saved by faith. We are saved through faith.
That's right.
Does that make sense? We're not saved by. Imagine, if you will, that the little cable connector that Sister DeWanda has to the camera. If she take that connector and connect it to a toaster, I don't care how many times she tries. I don't care how long she cries. If you are connected to the wrong thing, you will get no power.
Oh, that's right.
The message cannot get through if it's not connected. So you can have faith, but if you don't have faith in Jesus,
My God.
then you're connected to the wrong thing. If you have faith in yourself, if you have faith in anything else but Jesus, the connection's not going to get through.
Yes.
Huh? Do you follow me? And so faith is that connective cord by which we go through to stay connected to God. And so he asked them, what's wrong with your faith? What's wrong, amen, with your connection? Because, and I want y'all to get this, and I'm going to go sit down. God, I was talking with Mama yesterday, and we said, God is not upset with your disappointment.
That's right.
He understands when you had plans for something and a storm came up. He understands that we feel disappointed.
Yes.
Right? That doesn't bother God. Because disappointment is an emotion.
Yes.
What God wants you to stay away from is discouragement.
Yes. Yes.
Because discouragement is a decision.
Oh my.
We can't stop the feeling of being disappointed, but I can stop the behavior of being discouraged.
That's it.
You got to understand. And so Jesus wasn't upset that they were scared about the storm. They were upset that they were questioning him.
Yes.
That this storm got you so afraid that you took your eye off Jesus. Right. So God is asking today, do you have the will to stay still? I can remember my growing up, there was a backyard touched mine. And in the backyard, it was a police officer's yard, Officer Johnson. And he had a son named Steve. Steve was our friend. But he was a K-9 police officer. And he had a German Shepherd K-9 named Thunder. And Thunder ruled the neighborhood with 4 iron paws. Ruled the neighborhood. Thunder was as big as a horse. At least he seemed that way when you were 9 years old. And he could jump the fence easily. So Thunder could go where he wanted to go and come back where he wanted to. Right? When your ball went in Thunder's yard, game over. There must have been 1 million balls in Thunder's yard of all kinds, right? So I can remember, I told y'all about this, I can remember the day that I had to come and get the ball. Remember that? I told y'all this. I had to go and get that ball. And Officer Johnson told me to come get the ball. Thunder's sitting right there. He was one of the big old German Shepherds with the big head. Officer Johnson see the ball and they say, come get your ball. And then when he came out the yard and saw all them balls in the yard, he realized what was going on. He said, come back here now. And I came there and Thunder came running over to me. And I was this close to need new clothes. This close. Right? But Officer Johnson I forget exactly what he said to Thunder, something to the effect of set. And Thunder stopped right in front of me. And I recognized that all this time, I thought Thunder was in control. Thunder had controlled my behavior for years. He had ended our games for years and years and years. All kind of Christmas balls was in there. Right? But all it took was the master to say sit.
Yes.
That's all. Now he did not know long story, and Thunder recognized immediately. Now, Thunder knew we were scared of him.
Yes.
I think he rather enjoyed it. He would run out, and we'd run. Right? And we had ascribed all kind of evil things to Thunder. We hated Thunder. We tried to poison him once. We put some meat out there with Ajax on it, thinking he would eat it. We was gonna kill Thunder. Well, y'all, don't judge us. We're little kids. And everything changed the day I realized that Thunder had a master.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, and all this time, Sister Serena, I knew the master. I saw Officer Johnson. We used to trick or treat at his house. I saw Officer Johnson. He used to wave, how you doing, King?
My.
Right? All of this time, all I had to do was go to the master.
My God.
Hey, Thunder's master. And guess what? All he had to do was say a word.
Yes.
And then things got tricky after a while. Told y'all, when Thunder would act up, we would go, Officer Johnson! And then really, this is how it worked. This is how God worked. Officer Johnson would just open the window. Hey! And he would say, he wouldn't even come out in the yard no more. He would open the window and he would say, sit. I don't know about y'all. And wherever Thunder was, he would sit right there. He didn't even have to be there. See, the first time I had to see him up close. So we see the relationship that I am the boss of him. But after that, it just became a vocal thing.
Yes.
Because Thunder knew his voice.
Yes.
And then after a while, I began to know his voice.
Yes.
And so when the ball would go over there, that didn't mean the game was over no more.
Yes.
That just meant I had to call on the master.
Oh, yes.
When things got hard, as they sometimes will, it doesn't mean it's over. I just got to call on the master.
Oh, Jesus.
When you go to the doctor's office and get a bad report, it doesn't mean things are over. I just got to call on the master. Hey, when I run out of money and resource, I don't got to go to the bank and start crying. I just got to call. Jesus. That don't mean the wind's going to stop blowing. Because it might still blow around you, but at some point, Jesus is going to say, sit. Hey, be still. Peace, be still. My God, my God. And so, do you have the will to be still. To know in the midst of all of that stuff, don't question God, just call on the master. Do you have enough nerve? Now, if you never call on him, thunder will bite you. Let's be clear. I seen him do it. If you try, I don't know.
Preach, Pastor.
If you tried to run away from thunder, he was big as I told you. He could catch you in 3 steps. So running was futile.
Yeah.
You could try to climb a tree.
Yeah.
You could try, but at some point, you got to come down from the tree. And he would wait on you. Right? And so there are some situations we find ourselves in that we can't outrun. We can't out-talk. We can't outsmart. But we can call on the master.
Yes, God. Thank you.
Do you have the will in the midst of my problem to call on Jesus? Not to accuse, why am I going through this? Oh, why is me, Lord? But to know the problem solved.
Yes.
Lord, I see the storms raging about me. I'm not going to ask how you care. Are you ready, Jesus?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Well, I'm not even going to ask you what you're going to do. I'm just going to say, Jesus.
Jesus.
Hey,
Yes, God.
Mother said earlier this morning, he knows what you have need of. Just call his name. Jesus.
Jesus.
Because I can feel by now, Officer Johnson must have figured out. The only reason that all the balls was there is because Officer Johnson didn't know what thunder was up to. So at this particular time, now he realizes what the situation is, and he's on top of it even when you can't see him.
Yes.
I'm sure he's had some conversations with thunder when I wasn't around. Right. And he let it be known that he was not too pleased with Thunder's attitude.
Yes.
So unless you need, and you want me to correct you, I'm going to need you to leave them children alone. And so there'll be times he would be in the front of the house washing his car. Thunder. Miss Johnson said. And after a while, Sister Serena, we began to get confidence.
Yes.
We would jump right over the yard. Thunder start running. Officer Johnson! You're laughing, but that's where God needs us to be. God needs you to have the same confidence that 9-year-old Niagara had in Officer Johnson. That when I call on him, first he hears me. This is the confidence that we have in him. That when I call him, he hears me. Hey, and that he will send on. And send on might not look like what it did the first time. First time it looked like him coming out, throwing the balls. Then after a while, send on just meant him saying a word. Peace, be still. Peace be still in the atmosphere. Peace be still in the marriage. Peace be still in the school. Peace be still in the church. Wherever atmosphere God's speaking to, all you have to do is say peace. Return to the state it was when I created. Get back to where it was when I first made it, because I don't make no foolishness. When I didn't make you for all this arguing. Hallelujah. I didn't make you for destruction. And so I'm telling you, get back where I sent you. Hallelujah. From which, my God, I got to close. Hallelujah. But you got to know the master. Hallelujah.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you. If you don't know Officer Johnson's name, if you don't have no connection with Officer Johnson, you're going to get bit. Whether you meant to or not. Whether it's your fault, it don't make no difference whose fault it is. If you're not connected to the master, you have no real defense against the storm. But if you know his name, hallelujah. So now, in the storms in our lives, in the thunder of our lives, do you know the master of the thunder? The calmer of the sea, the lifter up of our downtrodden heads. Do you know the word of God? But more importantly, do you know the God of the word?
Amen.
If you don't, if you can't recall a time when you asked him to be the Lord of your life, I offer you the altar. Come and give your heart to the Lord.